Yo, hello and welcome to this bonus special episode of Particles. Once again from the basement studio. I thought I'll answer some questions. And someone called Mefjus asked about the phase alignment, what I meant with that during Amber. Also, a person called Changer asked a similar thing about phase alignment and stuff like that. So that's what we're gonna look at today. I just started one of my default sort of templates here, which is a kick and a snare, as you would assume. And again, this serum kick here I made is just a default sort of kick. And when it comes to phase alignment, I'm a big fan of looking at this plugin here. It's called the BC, the Blue Cat Oscilloscope. And as the name suggests, it is an oscilloscope which lets you look at your audio events in real time. And therefore you can see the waveform, which is, the phase here. And it's really good to see problems with your phase. So for instance, this kick here I made, which sits in phase nicely. I discussed it before. It is a body part and a top end part. And what you want is that top end really nicely lined up with your bottom part here. And to be able to do that, you have to phase align it right. And an example for a not phased aligned kick would be this here. Let's have a look. You see that? Those two sounds are not coming together nicely. And that's what I meant when I was talking about phase alignment. That's something you should be aware of when you synthesize sounds. So much for kicks. So you would try and adjust your phase here with this knob. As long as it's necessary to have them fall nicely into, the same phase. Didn't do it right here. Let me just go to the setting as it was. Actually, that's not right. That's the one. And now it is a nice kick again. Very subjective to my way of working, because with different kick plugins or different plugins, it's different. For me, using Serum with two oscillators, that's how it works. So one question about the kick specifically, but also you can look at that on the bigger picture if you want to phase align your kick with your sub. Got a little Serum here, just a sine wave playing your sub. If you play your kick and your sub now, even though it's sidechained, you see there's some weird stuff going on. It shouldn't align like that. It should be one. In an ideal world, it would be one waveform here. So again, if you play around with your phase here, let me make the loop smaller. You see how those two sounds align or not align, and then you would look for a moment where those two sounds pretty much give one big sine wave. That's pretty much it. And now you see the phase of the kick is aligned with the phase of the sub. And that's what phase alignment is. And that's how you can track that using plugins like an oscilloscope. Particles. Another question came in from a guy called Waking Dad or Walking Dad. I think it was Walking Dad, not Dad, but as a father, Dad. What's in your master bus and what plugins do you use? I'm still here in this phase alignment project because that's my default go-to sort of master chain as well. And the only plugins I use is this spectrum analyzer, and as we said before, the oscilloscope. That's all I really use on my master bus. At some point, I would slap a limiter on there, probably something like Pro L, and just limit that. I don't do anything else on the master bus on default. or by default. If the track needs some sort of EQing or dynamic changes, I wouldn't do it here on the master bus. I would literally look at the song and look which element needs treatment. If you find your mix being too dull, then usually your drums lack of treble, or your bass sounds lack of treble, or one or the other, or both. So I'd rather look at those sounds specifically, because if you EQ the whole master, obviously all the other sounds will get enhanced in those frequencies as well, which is not what you want, especially if you have vocals in there. Then you get some really weird like top end on your vocals. So my tip for master bus would be have some analyzers on there, and just have a limiter on there. And if you need anything else, as in the song should feel different, then go back into the song and look at the elements, think about it, what element should do what for this song, and then fix that rather than touching the whole mix. Particles. Another question came in from Soup OS. The question was about the social media vocal in the outro of Bubble. Let's just have a look right here. The sample here is something I sampled from YouTube. It was a commercial by a social media platform, and they interviewed teenagers what their favorite social media channel or app was, and I just used that and really chopped it up. And this is what it sounds with the plugins on.
I'm using Instagram.
Sorry about the metronome. Let's go again.
I'm using Instagram and Snapchat.
I either go on Snapchat or I'm on Instagram.
Without the plugin, it's like that.
I'm using Instagram and Snapchat.
Very natural.
I either go on Snapchat,
but I really wanted to sort of, flip it around so it sounds super weird. Just a pitch plugin, which is automated.
I'm using
I think
Instagram and Snapchat.
Goes down.
I either go on Snapchat or I'm on Instagram.
I used the tape stop plugin here as a start thing. So
Of 100 likes.
So the guy, it sounds like a tape stop, hence the tape stop plugin name. Third plugin is a frequency shifter by Melder. Also, mega shout out to Melder. It's Luke at Melder, Czech plugin maker. Sick, super sick plugins. They cover everything from EQs, frequency shifters, multiband compressors, wave shapers, to even synthesizers and drum machines. Fucking wicked company, wicked plugins. And for this vocal, I also used that. So just
I'm using Instagram and Snapchat.
I frequency shifted the vocal, which gives it
I'm using Instagram and Snapchat.
a really weird dissonant sort of feel. Another stage would be an EQ, probably emphasizing certain
I'm using Instagram.
Frequency ranges, and then another instance of trash. Again, just wave shaping it, EQing it a little bit. Really.
I'm using Instagram and Snapchat.
Sort of beefing up certain frequencies you want to hear, and this is how the outro, the social media sample of Bubble was treated.
Instagram.
I'm on Snapchat and Instagram a lot. I'm using Instagram just to post pictures.
I usually get above 100 likes.
Fake.
particles.
Another question came in by K100. He or she was asking about an in-depth look into mixing, and that's something I can't really, put on Cubase, because every track is different, really. And if you watch all the tutorials, you will see that every track needs a different sort of approach to it. But there's one thing I can share, which is always the same. It's just try to think about what each element has to do in the mix. Have a look at what sort of kick, what sort of snare is the song requiring. Not every song needs the biggest and loudest snare, or not every song needs a high-pitched snare. So just be aware of what the track should do, and then make a conscious decision of picking those elements. And I find myself lately mixing even less, EQing less and less, because if you know what you're trying to tell with those sounds or elements, then and you're able to create them or synthesize them, then you really don't need to mix a lot. I barely EQ, I barely compress stuff, but that's, I think, maybe is a learning curve people have to go through. finding your own sound, finding your own working process. And there's no right answer to mixing. I think personally less is more. I mentioned before in the other question that on the master bus, I'm a big fan of not coloring the master bus at all. No multiband dynamic change or no EQing really. If you have a problem in the mix, try to tackle the mix. Try to tackle the element in the mix that is bothering you, and then the mix will come together nicely. And I hope that answers that. And if you have further questions, again, drop some questions into the comments section or DM me on Instagram. I'm trying to get back to you guys. And stay tuned for another episode. Peace.